Hello, soft fleshy critters. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am your host, Play. Do you like the game Hollow Knight? I quite like it, especially the art and the designs. However, they are very stylized and a lot don't really look like the bugs that they should be. The knight, for example, is supposed to be some kind of beetle, most likely a stag beetle. So it got me thinking, how would a more realistic knight look like, while being faithful to the original design? So let's make a realistic knight. And not because the algorithm loves that, but because it is actually my preferred style of sculpting. Let's get our hands dirty. I'll be using an oil clay to make this little man. Oil clay never dries, it never cures, and it is temperature sensitive. The colder it is, the harder it gets, and with heat it becomes very soft, to the point of melting, just like wax. The hole in the ground where I reside is very cold, so my clay is very hard. So let's heat it with a blowtorch until it is malleable. Let's start with the head. I'll first make a little clay ball and then try to roll on one side and flatten on one side until it becomes a marshmallow. The knight's head doesn't translate that well to 3D. It is sometimes drawn with round heads, sometimes more squared heads. I tend to go with the squared option. Shaping this to be a smooth symmetrical shape is going to be a little difficult, so let's use a hack. I'll put the head on a drill and while it is spinning I can shave it off. This shapes it fast and smoothly. We have our marshmallow, so let's gouge some round holes for the eyes. Now the horns. Let's roll a little clay sausage as my broken table, held together with duct tape, shakes viciously. Now bend that worm and let's pinch the tip and then make a V-cut to make a little mouth until it looks like a mouth tentacle of a graboid from the movie Tremors, or like the mouth of the Sarlacc pit. To stick the horn to the head, let's melt the other end and push it to the marshmallow. Then with more soft clay, let's go around the joint and blend it. The head is ready. Not really, but let's move to the body. With a little chunk of clay, let's pull a couple of legs from the body and then position it a little until we have a pair of chubby legs and a little booty. For the arms, let's roll a couple of sausage appendages and stick it on, and then blend it with the rest of the body. Check if the size and proportions fit with the head. The knight has a big old head, so the body is a little smaller. Now let's go make his sword nail. For the hilt, I'll roll a tin cylinder that his small hands can grasp. Very easy. Making the blade is a lot like making an arrow tip. Shape a point with your hands, and then with the tool you start cutting off chunks, making all the angles as straight as possible. Nail is really old and gritty, so we need to carve the cracks on it with a scalpel. Also, you see a lot of cat hair in this video. I don't apologize. I also did some texturing on nail that I didn't film. All I did was run the hobby knife through the blade parallel to the blade's edge. Then, with a brush and mineral spirits, I brushed the lines. Mineral spirit softens the clay and details become smoother. It also muds previous details, so I have to cut over the crack lines again to redefine them. And nail is done. Now with a loop through the serrated edges, I'll go over the body and the head to shape the forms in a more organic manner. The clay is really hard and fighting me, but I'll persevere. Now to get rid of all the rake lines, I'll hit the surfaces lightly with a blowtorch. Some smoothing and fixing damages the fire may have done. Bringing out the mineral spirits again, I'll brush the whole thing to smooth the surface again. This also removes fingerprints. Now we have a kind of classic knife from Hollow Knight. But that's not what we came here to do, so it's time to make him buggy. Checking the reference, let's cut some insect mouth parts onto the head. Bulk it with some clay and then cut it to shape the mandibles. For the body, we'll draw the lines for the segmented abdomen and the joint lines. Let's make little beetle shells that cover the wings at the back by placing some clay and making it roundish, almost like a curved guitar pick. The little hole is not a poop hole, it's just to place the body on a stand. It'll get covered by the end. It then gets separated at the top and cut down the middle. There's also this little fourth part in the middle. With tiny spikes of clay on the arm, we can make the classic pointy legs of beetles. We will also cut the tip of the arm open to make little grabby pincers, and then do the same to the legs. Now let's glob it with some mineral spirits again. Both shells are smooth, but not really. They have these striations in their textures, so with the clay soft from the spirits, I'll use a silicone tool to run some lines on the shell. Let's flambe it. The knight's head is different though. It's almost like a little helmet made of this fossilized material, so I want to make it really porous. With mineral spirits to soften the clay, I'll follow up by stippling the whole head with this nylon brush thing. To make it really old and beat up, I'll cut some cracks. With this steel thing, I'll do the same thing I did with the brush, but even harder. It looks weird now, but trust the process. So, the cape. Sometimes drawings make it look like it's actually his wings. Sometimes they make it into an actual cloth cape. I'll go with cloth. Cut some cloth to shape and then cover it with clay pieces. Then, like a rebel, will heat the clay with fire and run my fingers into the molten hot clay. This is dangerous, so be smarter than me. Some bits of thread can catch on fire, but it's not a big deal. Just put it out fast. Do the same on both sides and then peel it off. Hashtag oddly satisfying. Now we have a cloth cape that can be posed and it will hold the shape. And we're done. So let's go make a little base, yeah? Alright, this base is going to be as simple as it gets, so let's smash some aluminum foil into a triangle. Then cover it with clay. Now let's rake the crap out of it until it looks good and straight. With a ball stylus and other rounded bits, I'll hit the sides of the base a lot. Putting a piece of plastic over the piece can help your details to be softer and not tear the clay as much. Let's draw some crack lines now, only on the sides. We have to make a polished cobblestone floor to cover the top part of this base, so let's squish bits of clay into oval shapes and cover the entire thing with them. Hollow Knight's world is littered with these little ammonite fossil-looking thingies. Let's make a couple of them by rolling some clay and then curling it on the inside to make little spirally snail shells. Then cut some lines into it, both perpendicular to the circle and running parallel to the spiral. Now cover this cargo with thin sheets of clay. This will be the fossilized crusty layer, leaving a little bit exposed so we can see inside. Do some cutting around the little window and some shaping of the shell, along with some cracks and broken pieces for flavor. Then place it on the base. I also did some texturing on it and placed millions of pebbles of clay around the shells. Okay, we're done here. Let's put some paint onto these guys. So we've primed everything with black. Normally, you shouldn't paint on white clay because it never cures, so it can still deform, especially in a hot place. That's why we make silicone molds of the clay pieces and cast copies in resin to paint. However, I can't afford silicone or resin, and even if I could, I have no pressure chamber to remove the bubbles from this cast. So for the purposes of this video, this will do. Let's stipple some blue with a sponge on the base. By heating the surface lightly, the paint will only hit the high points, leaving the black in the deep points and recesses, which will show the texture and details better. With a lighter blue on a brush, I wipe most of the paint off on a paper towel and then brush lightly over the base. This is called dry brushing and is great to make highlights. The base is done, so let's get over to the cape. With a darker blue, I hit it with a sponge and dry brush it, and then keep doing that with lighter and lighter tones. For nail, let's cover it with a gray. The knight's body is jet black, so that's what I'll do. But I also want to add the detail from beetle carapaces, where they have these shimmery pearlescent colors. So I'll paint with a pearlescent blue paint, and then go over with black washes to push it back until the blue is almost not there, but you can still see a little shimmer. The head is white, but first let's put some gray over it, and then we can do a black wash. With very diluted black paint, I'll brush over the piece, and then with a paper towel get most of the wash out. We can dry brush the head with white as a highlight. Also, let's do a last minute white highlight on nail. We're done. It's time to put the whole thing together. And here it is, a bug knight from the game Hollow Knight. I am new to this human web thing, but I intend to improve, so thank you for watching my video. Now, off to the glamour shots.